Hello yogis. This class is going to be an all levels Hatha style class, and we're going to get really into the hips, and we're going to do some kind of fun sit and spinny kind of actions. This will be the first time that I am doing both recording for the online library and teaching on Zoom, so we're going to kind of feel out, see if this can work, so that I can spend more time with my kids. So if you hear me talking to specific people, then, it may be an opportunity for you to check in with your own practice and see if maybe the feedback that I'm giving to a student on my live Zoom class, maybe it applies to you. So it's an opportunity. You'll need 2 blocks and a strap, and I will get our Zoom students on. Okay, and then driving the outer right knee towards the floor, see if you can just coax a little more length out of your left inner groin and maybe sink your left hip point a little bit more towards the floor. And notice when you do that, it allows you to sit up a little taller here. So the tendency is to sink into the right hip. And so I want you to think about leading with the pelvis to try to sit yourself up a little bit more upright. But you can have your fingertips on the floor. Okay, so keep pressing that outer right knee towards the floor. Breathe in and exhale. And then we're going to just switch to the other side. We'll do a more active version of switching in a moment, but first let's just get into the shape. So switch over to the left side so that your left shin is in front, right shin behind you. And again, notice the 2 sides are very different, likely. Okay, driving your left knee towards the floor, and notice how even that action kind of tends to lift this right hip point a little bit more. See if you can coax. Don't force. Don't ever force anything in the hips. You're just going to coax your right sit bone a little bit more towards the floor. And notice how tilting your pelvis in that way allows you to sit up a little taller because it's, your spine is stacked on top of your pelvis. Keep pressing your left outer knee towards the floor. Breathe. Okay, then we're going to switch back and forth a few times in a more active way. So push your outer left knee towards the floor. Try to keep it pinned there as long as possible. And you may have to slide your right foot a little closer to you in order to achieve this. But start to lift the right knee up and out, trying to keep the left knee pinned there, pinned there, pinned there as long as you can. You can use your hands here. And then eventually, your left knee will have to lift, but you're pulling the knees away from each other. Like your left knee didn't want to leave the floor. It was nice and warm and comfy down there. And eventually you end with your right knee on the mat and your left knee comes down. Sit up nice and tall, trying to find that stacked position. Okay, and then drive your right knee into the floor. You may have to sneak your left foot a little closer and then start to open your left knee out to the left. Keep the right knee pinned, 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 pinned. Opening up, and eventually the right knee has to comply, but you're still pulling the knees apart as you travel back to the left. We'll do 1 more each side. When you get to the left, reestablish the shape. Sit up nice and tall, trying to tilt the pelvis a little bit to the right. Okay, drive the left knee into the mat and open up the right knee. Pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Trying to keep the left knee pinned, 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 and eventually it has to come along for the ride. And then you end up at the right. 1 more. Just find the shape. Trying to sink your left sit point towards the floor. Drive the outer right knee into the floor, and then open the left knee out to the left. Pulling it out to the left. Keep trying to pin, 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 pin. Pin the right knee. Pulling the knees apart through center, and eventually ending on the left. Okay, so now turn to face your left shin. And when you turn your chest, that may make it a little easier to find a little bit more sinking down of the inner right groin towards the floor. Push your outer left knee towards the floor. Inhale, send your chest over your shin. And do a little forward fold over your left shin. So you may stay up high, you may come all the way, you may fold all the way forward. Wherever you are, I want you to try to square your chest with the floor and bring your right shoulder more towards your left shin. So the tendency is to kind of open up to the right a little bit. Try to square your right shoulder towards the floor. And even as you do that, can you also try to square the right side of your pelvis a little bit more with the floor and feel the stretch on the outer left hip. Take some deep breaths here, breathing all the way down to your pelvic floor. If you can't find the pause at the top of the inhale and the bottom of the exhale, then back out of the shape a little bit. That's your nervous system trying to tell you it doesn't like something. And then slowly come up. You can either just switch sides or you can do another one of these active switches where you drive the left knee towards the floor. Maybe you experiment with it and you see after that little stretch, is it now easier to keep that left knee there longer? Maybe, maybe not. All right, and then you end with the right shin in front. And turn to face your right shin this time. See if you can sink a little bit more of your left inner thigh towards the floor. Inhale, send your chest forward, like as if you could send it past your shin, and then slowly forward fold over the right shin. See if you can square your chest with the floor. Even if you're up high, think about pulling the left shoulder a little more forward because the tendency is to not do that. And then forward fold any amount over that right shin and breathe deeply. Okay, and then face the long edge of your mat. And take a nice wide stance. Turn your heels in, toes out, and just bring your hands to your knees. So we're doing kind of the nice version of goddess at first. All right, and then push into your right knee and sink your right shoulder towards the floor. So trying to really work your pelvis down towards the floor as you just use your right arm. Lock out the elbow and use that arm like a strut to just push the right knee away from you. And get a nice stretch all the way from the right shoulder down through the right hip and the right inner thigh. Okay, now stay in this position. Push your right knee into your hand. So engage the right inner thigh. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then pull the right knee away from the right hand. It won't move away from the right hand, but feel the outer right hip muscles turn on and feel the weight lighten in your right hand a little bit. Good. And then come through center. You can straighten your legs for a moment if you need to kind of release that a little. And then come back to goddess with your hands on your knees. And then keeping the left elbow straight, use your left arm like a strut. Just lean your left shoulder to the midline. Feel that glorious stretch all the way from the top of the left shoulder down. For me, I feel it down through the left side of my back and my left inner thigh. And then push your left knee into your left hand. So feel your left inner thigh turn on here, and it's nice long length. And then pull the left knee away from the left hand. See if you can engage those outer left hip muscles as if. Pull for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back through center. Maybe push the knees away from each other. Maybe sinking the butt a little lower. And then drive into the heels and stand. Shake that out. Okay, let's see. I do want to do this little drill. Okay, so grab your strap. If the arm part of this becomes a little too much, you can release the strap and bring your hands to your waist, to your hips. Otherwise, we'll add in a little shoulder yumminess, because why not? So hold the strap in your right hand, bring your right arm overhead. I'll turn around so you can see what I'm doing. Bend the right elbow, bring the right hand to the back of the neck. Left hand, palm faces away from you, thumb down. Skim the back of the left hand up your back and grab onto the strap. Okay, work your hands close together on the strap and then pull apart on the strap. And then keep pulling apart on the strap. We're going to do a little tug of war. So let the top hand win, but resist with the bottom hand. and then pull with the bottom hand, but resist with the top hand. And go back and forth a few times, really pulling, trying to keep the right elbow facing the ceiling and the left elbow pulling towards the floor. After you've done that a few times, push the fists towards each other as if you could slack the strap. Hold there for 5, 4, 3, really pushing the fist together, 2, 1. If you made slack in the strap, walk your bottom hand up and take up the slack. Okay, now we're going to stay with the shoulders like this. If this gets to be too much, like I said, just bring your hands to your hips. Okay, so still in your nice wide stance, or if you're not still, and get there. And then spin your heels in, toes out, and come down towards goddess pose. So now with your hands behind you like this, it's a lot harder to stick your butt out. It's actually a little bit easier to bring the torso upright. So try to find that. Drop your tailbone towards the floor. And then you're going to come up onto your right toes and spin your right heel more to the midline, so more external rotation. Try not to let the left knee cave, and then sink your butt like a little demi-squat. And then come a little bit out of that, lift onto the right toes, spin the right heel out, should feel a little awkward, set it down, little demi-squat. Up onto the right toes, come back towards like what would be normal for goddess. So kind of, I won't call it center. Well, yeah, let's call it center. All right, come up onto the left toes. Spin the left heel more to the midline, demi-squat. Lift onto the left toes, spin the left heel out, super awkward, demi-squat. Bring it back to center. Do a little bit of a squat. Straighten the legs. We're going to do one more cycle like that. So again, opportunity to release the strap if it's torture. Otherwise, come back to the goddess. Come up onto the right toes. Right heel more to the midline. Demi-squat. Onto the toes. Spin the right heel out. Demi-squat. Back to center. Demi-squat. Up onto the left toes. Spin the left heel more to the midline. Demi-squat. Up onto the toes. Left heel out. Super awkward. Demi-squat. Back to center. Demi-squat. Straighten the legs. Shake them out. Release the hands. Guess what? We have another arm. Which means we get to do all of that again on the other side. So, yay! Now, I want to give you an option for anybody whose knees are maybe a little bit tender or who just finds the range of sitting all the way to the floor, which is part of this action, a little bit too much for today or just in general. Maybe you're not yet there, okay? So if that's you, then your option is going to be to just keep the hips higher and use the blocks more. So we will get to a part where I'm asking you to cross your thighs, okay? And then, you know, the rest of the class is going to sit here. Now, if that's too much, you just keep your hips higher, right? And then you can just this action of walking the blocks around and crossing the thighs, okay? And just maybe try to start bending your knees, okay? And get a little bit of, this is like a deep squeeze of the inner thighs. You'll feel a stretch and, you know, maybe trying to go a little lower each time, but only working within your knees. And so just going back and forth like this is plenty. You're going to lift your left knee up off the floor. Bring your left knee into your chest from standing. That was badly said. Bring your knee out to the side, okay? And as you come forward, find your blocks if you need to use them. And you're gonna circle your left knee down and around to the right. So you see my thighs are crossed. My left knee is behind my right foot. My left thigh is behind my right thigh, okay? And then you can put your right foot on the floor. Sorry, your left foot. Nailing it. I am nailing it today. Okay, with your hands on the blocks and this kickstand situation, sitting down should be relatively doable for just about anybody. So you're setting the left knee down, and then you're trying to sit to the inside of your left heel. So it's like this Ardha Matsyendrasana shape. okay? Then you're gonna lean back forward. You can use fingertips as much as you like. And tuck your, well, I'll use the blocks this time. So tuck your left toes. Can you see them? Tucked underneath me. And then hover your left knee. So you're back in this kind of squatting position. You can be higher if this starts to bother your knees for any reason. Okay? And then you're just going to walk yourself around to the left, spinning your toes on the mat. And if you come all the way around, you get to the second side, and your right thigh is crossed behind your left. Ta-da! All right. And then you're going to bring your right knee to the floor. And again, sit down inside your right heel. So you're in this Ardha Matsyendrasana, second side. Okay, then lean your weight forward, tuck your right toes, lift your right knee off the floor. And again, you can walk the blocks. Now we're going to the right. Okay, thighs are crossed with the left behind the right. Bring the left knee to the floor. Sit down inside the left heel. Okay, now I'm going to show it without the blocks. Okay, so if you want to try the more active version, no hands. Look, Mama, no hands. Okay, lean forward. You have to come up a little bit to tuck your left toes under. You're in this kind of crouch. Okay, and then you got to spin without touching the floor. Try to keep your butt really low. Okay, now the trick, it gets a little dicey right around here. You got to get your pelvis to face forward before you set the right knee down. And then you sit down inside the right heel. And then lean forward and tuck your right toes, lift your right knee, and then trying to keep your butt really low, spin back and come back to the first side. Pelvis has to face forward first, then the left knee comes down, and then you sit down. Okay, looks like you guys are getting it. That's awesome. Okay, so let's add on to this just a little bit.